Garoppolo. Thrown down. Brian Burns gets there. Spider-Man. What a pass rush by Burns. See how quickly he got to the edge and got
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. And welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated Panthers beat writer Schuyler, Callihan, and the Carolina Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart, part of the Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by betonline.ag. I'll give you a quick word from BetOnline here in just a bit. Loaded show today. Of course, it's open mailbag. If you've got something you want to comment on regarding the Carolina Panthers or what they're doing, the draft is now less than 8 days away, I think. Next Thursday is when it's going to kick off. So we're coming around the bend here on that. We'll talk a little bit about the press conference that General Manager Scott Fitterer had yesterday with the media. Had a couple of juicy tidbits there. Guys, it's starting to sound like they kind of know who they want, and it doesn't feel like they're going to move off of it anytime soon. He had some interesting comments we'll share with you there in our Respond React segment. And we decided we were going to do a mock draft. Instead of last year, me and Schuyler were going back and forth on different picks. The three of us together are going to try to collectively put our brains together and figure out who's the best guy for, we're only going to go top 10 and figure out who should go where in this mock draft. And you guys can actually help participate in that if we get stuck on one of these players by commenting on youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio or on the Facebook Watch video. Before we get going, though, of course, a quick word from our friends over at Bet Online, and Bleav it actually just sent me over fresh off the presses a brand new read for you guys. So that looks like the same. But anyway, betonline.ag is your #1 source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs: basketball, MLB, NHL, hockey, right to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right now from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get on the action. Be sure to use our promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. I actually thought about going over there and opening an account with the NBA playoffs starting, but I can't figure out the Western Conference. Like, it's so jumbled with everything. It's like all the lower seeds feel like they're the vet teams. Like the Lakers are at 7. So it's like you're trying to figure this out. I don't know. It'll be fun to watch, though. So there's so much stuff going on right now, middle of April, between the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and the NFL draft stuff going on here. My first question for you, Stu, are you still on Anthony Richardson at #1? Because you've had a week to kind of sit on this now, and some info has come out from upper management where it sounds like they're kind of leaning towards a guy. They were really good about not saying who it was. Is that guy Anthony Richardson?
I'm gonna say that it's not Anthony Richardson.
Well, you'll have a chance to find him a home a little bit later on here in the show. we'll get him in a good spot. We'll find a good spot.
Yeah,
man,
there's a lot that goes with that package.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, I was trying to think of, when was the last draft? Was it 2020, I guess, that had this many quarterback prospects in it that actually turned out pretty good? I mean, we talked about it last show. 2020 had Burrow and Tua, Justin Herbert. Maybe we should talk about Jalen Hurts real quick before before we get into anything. Thoughts on the deal Jalen Hurts signed? Was it yesterday, Monday, Tuesday, earlier this week? And what does it mean for Lamar Jackson? Because that was I think it was everybody's first thought when it broke. I think everyone thought about Lamar and not Jalen. What were your thoughts when you heard about this deal? Was it $255 million, 5 years? Largest deal in NFL history, $51 million, I believe, average, which is the highest in the league right now. Thoughts on this when you heard it drop, and did the Eagles do the right thing?
I mean, I think they did the right thing paying him. I mean, it's crazy to think that he's the highest paid quarterback in the league, highest paid player in the league. But I mean, it's not when it comes to these things, like you got to really kind of take it fluidly because like these are just resetting the markets. Like he's not going to be the highest paid player come next year.
Maybe next week.
Somebody else. Yeah, very, very true. But with Lamar, I don't know that it really like does anything to his contract because I think Baltimore is like firm. Like this is the line that we'll go to and we're not crossing it. And I don't think that Jalen Hurts' deal has anything much to do with it. I mean, maybe in the public eye it does, but I think too, like Jalen, like he's taking his team to a Super Bowl. Like he's arguably, I don't even think it's arguable. I think he's probably a better passer than Lamar Jackson, and probably more durable. We'll see long term, but I think this is more so of Jalen getting rewarded for taking his team to a Super Bowl, something Lamar has not yet to do and has hardly had any success in the playoffs.
Lamar's done everything else. I thought I saw Lamar got offered something similar to this from the Ravens before.
200 million guaranteed is what I thought.
Yeah. So I think Lamar needs an agent. I really do.
Like if I'm a guy that's only played in 24 games over the last 2 years and they offer me 200 million guaranteed, I'm signing that thing yesterday.
Running.
I don't care about trying to be the highest paid guy in the league. Like the heck with that.
It's a futile chase because you're never going to be the highest paid longer than, like you said, half a year maybe at the longest. Someone's always going to be at the top. Burrow's going to sign. Herbert's going to sign. Are they going to get $300 million? Like, could Joe Burrow be the first $300 million Nah, Cincinnati would never. No, not Cincinnati. I don't know. I can't see the Bengals.
Cincinnati's never moving off Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Unless he just falls off the cliff. But I don't see that happening.
I don't see that happening. Stu, your thoughts when you heard about this deal, being a former player and seeing all them bags getting rolled up to Jalen Hurts. I mean, the dude deserves it. He feels like a leader for the next 15 years for the Eagles. Thoughts on the deal and Lamar?
Yeah, man. I mean, Jalen's gone about his business the right way. I mean, he seems like a guy that just shows up and just gets his work done. I love his press conferences and just his demeanor, his approach to the game. You can tell that, he's got one thing on his mind, which is, playing well at his position and helping his locker room excel on the field. And you hear the stories from people about his work ethic. Mm-hmm. That's something that you can depend on. That's something that you can, really, at the end of the day, you pay a guy that much money, you can go to sleep at night knowing that he's probably up working or thinking about football. So from a former player standpoint, if I'm the guy in that locker room, I'm excited because I know that, that bag is going to do nothing but, motivate him even more because, I think he's a guy that's motivated by, showing his worth, and showing his value. And so right now his value's out there.
I mean, it feels like he set the market, not Deshaun, because Deshaun Watson's contract's really starting to feel more like an outlier now. Like it's not where we're going. Like it's very clear these teams do not want to go that route. But for him to get, I think it was 177 million of this guaranteed. So I mean,
and I think a lot of what gets lost in that too is like Deshaun was in a trade, and that was part of the trade that was negotiated. Versus Jalen's already on the team. Lamar's already on his team. Lamar's going to be a free agent. So, I mean, those are completely different situations.
We'll see what happens with Lamar because we haven't really heard a whole lot of movement with that or the whole Aaron Rodgers to the Jets thing in like a month. It feels like I don't know what the holdup is because the draft is next week. So you would think they would need to do something trade-wise to –
I have an idea. The draft next year is loaded. And I think Green Bay – would rather have that first-round pick next year. So I don't really think they care too much about this year's draft. I think they're looking as it like, hey, we're not in the rush. We're gonna get what we want and get next year's first-round pick.
See, I never understood that logic because it's like, okay, if you're trading Aaron Rodgers to the Jets and you're getting their pick next year, aren't the Jets going to be better next year? So isn't that first-round pick going to really be like a low first round, like in the 20s, maybe? I mean, if the Jets are good, you assume they're going to be better than what they are. But
Maybe.
It's this kicking the can down the road thing that I see a lot of teams do. Dallin in the house, he said, I just watched Bryce's Pivot podcast interview, and I'm switching my pick from CJ to Bryce. I love Bryce's character. What a sharp young man. I don't care about the worries with him anymore. He just seems like a phenomenal person. That's kind of what I've been waiting to happen. Like, out of all these prospects, I've been kind of waiting for somebody to just emerge like from them. This happened with Cam in 2011, where he was getting compared to Blaine Gabbert and some other guys in that draft. And after time, you saw him. I think it was his. He had like a locker room thing with John Gruden, where he was on the chalkboard, like drawing up a play or something. I think it was that moment where I was like, okay, I'm good with this guy. Like he got something with him that makes you want to follow him. Like there's just some kind of something. And out of all these guys,
it's the huddle. Like, can I see this guy in the huddle? Can I believe this guy in the huddle? Can this guy hold me accountable? Will I listen to this guy? And those are the measurements, man, that people have to take into consideration. I think they do all these, response tests, the cognitive testing that they've been doing, and the grade that he has amongst all the other quarterbacks and, previous, quarterbacks that have been drafted and where it ranks in that. I mean, at the end of the day, your quarterback is making decisions. He's making decisions to communicate. He's got to communicate the right way. He's got to be, and it all has to be received. You know what I'm saying? So the confidence on the field coming from your quarterback, he's your leader. I mean, that's the true X factor right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so obviously, I feel like every week, from the moment we start talking about these quarterbacks, that I'm reintroduced to something that just stands out about Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I'm like, but there's this thing. but it's really a testament to his story. All his life he's been around people that have these same questions, and he continues to prove them wrong. And going to that pivot interview that he was talking about, man, like you really get to see who this guy is through this interview. And no wonder why these teams are falling in love with him.
We heard a little bit of that yesterday from Scott Fitter, Dan Morgan, in terms of they were very good about not revealing who their number one guy is, but it was pretty clear to anybody that's been following the Panthers and the choices that it feels like it's Bryce, and the way they were describing Bryce and the way they were kind of defending his size and some of the other stuff. I went and pulled a couple of quotes from Scott Fitter from yesterday for us to kind of go through and respond, react. One of them has to do with Bryce's size, actually, in terms of it being a concern, because that was the thing that we landed on to start off with this. Here is General Manager Scott Fitter talking about Bryce's. He got asked a question about Bryce's size. This is him discussing that. Well, actually, hold on, I'm in the wrong spot. And it was actually a twofold question because our buddy Joe Person from The Athletic asked a follow-up.
Don't buy another toothbrush until you see what this one can do.
Thought I had avoided this. There we go.
Russell Wilson came out and he had 3 balls batted down his senior year. Bryce had 2. So if you're talking just about Bryce, this doesn't seem to be an issue. When you grow up, a shorter quarterback, you learn how to, evolve your game and adapt and see the field. He's done that, just like CJ's, evolved his game, and Will's evolved his game. They all develop, and there's certain tools that they have, and they learn to play to their strength, and they've all done that.
Before we go forward, I'm gonna go ahead and run the second one because it kind of adds on to that. Joe Person was asking him about not Bryce's height, but like we talked about how we thought, he's not, what's the word, thick enough, I guess. I don't feel comfortable.
Very slender.
He's very slender. There we go. And this is Fitter's response to that.
And I heard you all addressing the height. What about Bryce's weight? There's a lot of people that think he's going to play at 195. Is that a concern, durability and longevity?
Yeah, I think, nutritionally we can do some things to educate him, get him in the weight room. You can see when you really look at his lower body has gotten bigger. He's put on a lot of mass down there. A lot of times quarterbacks don't want to lift upper body because you get a little bit bound up. But there's some things he's going to naturally put on size as he ages as well. Again, going back to Russ, I think he came out at 200, maybe he might have been 206 pounds. He's at 220 now. I mean, guys just grow. That's something he can control, and that's something we can help him with. He can't control the height.
Is it just me, or did that sound like he was defending their pick? Like, you know what I mean? Like he had it prepared, like he knew.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing. I know who he didn't mention. Anthony Richardson.
They are.
He even mentioned Will Levis in there too. Like, man, like it feels like it's Bryce, and I feel like I'm happy I came to that before it was force fed on me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad I kind of came to my own devices and was like, okay, I'm okay with Bryce. And then a week or so later, it feels like that's where they're going, as opposed to having to settle for Bryce. Like I wanted somebody else, and then they picked Bryce, and I got to kind of convince myself into it. I think we've had enough time on the podcast to kind of, honestly, I feel good with any of the three, CJ, Bryce, or Anthony Richardson with the coaching staff we have. But again, Bryce feels like he kind of has that it factor, and dudes follow him. Let me ask you guys this. Do you remember anybody ever really commenting about his size when he was at Alabama?
I mean, just knowing that I cover West Virginia, obviously, and I hear a lot of college people talk. I know a lot of people were concerned about it, but I don't think it was really that big of a talking point just because of him being in Alabama, right? Like, it didn't matter what they were going up against. He was getting protected very well, and I don't think it ever kind of became an issue. The one thing that kind of stood out to me in this pressure yesterday, and it was something I talked about last week. I said when I start diving in Bryce's film, the one thing I'm looking for in particular is the batted balls. Is that an issue? And Scott said that he only had 2 all year long. So clearly that's something that's, that plagued Baker Mayfield throughout his whole college career, NFL career so far.
Yeah.
There's not going to be an issue with Bryce Young. At least we don't think. He knows how to find the lanes, like he said. And to me, if you can get the ball out quick, you're really not having to worry about guys getting a hand on a ball. As long as your guys are doing their thing up front, you get the ball out quick, taking shots downfield, there's not going to be enough time for those guys to get hands up.
Are you concerned about the size at all, Stu, in terms of his height and getting the ball out into these avenues?
It's never been the height. It's always just been his ability to pack on weight and keep it. And I mean, like I said, every week I get convinced that this is a new wave, brother.
All they gotta do is put that kid in a room with a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a gallon of milk, and tell him every hour you eat some peanut butter, and drink some milk, and then you.
It does kind of scare you though, because just think about the guys that are in this division in particular, especially like Atlanta. They added some guys in that front seven that are really big dudes, but more like Vita Vea in Tampa. Just imagine if he lands on Bryce a few times.
Imagine if he lands on one of us. Like, I don't even think size matters when you got a 350 man.
Yeah,
that's my thing too. Because everyone talks about they're worried about him getting hurt. I'd be worried about anybody I picked getting hurt. Like, in terms of that position, and it's number one, and you're going to have those worries regardless of who it is. I think with Cam, we got spoiled because we felt like, well, he's bigger than a lot of the dudes that are going to hit him. It's going to be harder to hurt him because he's.
I think one of the things that I feel comfortable about is listening to that pivot interview, which they do a tremendous job.
I gotta go listen to them. Yeah, they're great.
But his confidence within himself is through the roof.
Yep.
And he said something along the lines like, "I can only control what I like." It's really like one of them quotes that you hear from a seasoned vet. Like, I can only control what I can control. So why would I worry about anything else? He can't control whether he's going first pick, second pick, whatever, what team it is. All he's worried about is getting himself prepared for whatever situation. And a guy like that kind of speaks like that, he knows himself well enough to block out the noise, to be in a situation where only he can get himself out of. So, like, he's going to, like, quarterbacks are going to get sacked. Like, guys are going to get injured. But I'm developing this confidence in his confidence.
It's kind of contagious.
It's contagious.
Yeah, it's contagious. And Fitter said something about that earlier in the press conference. Well, not specifically about Bryce, but he mentioned basically out of the guys that came in, there was one that really stood out in terms of all the stuff you just said. And just based off what you just said, I have to assume I haven't heard that about CJ Stroud. Like, in terms of his confidence being infectious and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Or Will Levis or AR, or really Bryce has been the main one that has had that. So I think they moved up to 1 for Bryce and were willing to be convinced otherwise, and really did due diligence to try to see if that was the case. And they landed on Bryce. I'm pretty sure.
To go off what Stu was saying about the confidence in, like, for example, like, I think a lot of times quarterbacks can just have – you always hear about, like, having a command of the offense, a command of the huddle, right? That is such an overlooked thing when it comes to these draft evaluations and everything like that. If he has full grasp of this offense and everyone in that huddle believes in him and believes in the call, even if they don't think it's the right call, that goes so far than what you can ever imagine. And the only way I know this is I actually talked to I think it was Steve Slayton that told me this a couple years back. He's like, now we didn't run a huddle at West Virginia, but when Pat White would call the play, you just knew, like, that alpha mentality that he had, that confidence that he had in the call every single time, and you knew you had him going to bat with you every single play. You knew that you were going to work, that you were going to get the work in, and you knew that you were going to win. So I think that same kind of confidence, but calmness at the same time, like, when there's pressure that comes up or adversity, Bryce, he gives me that vibe, kind of like Steve was telling me about Pat, is like, if that adversity comes, just stay even keeled. We're going to get through it. Like, and I think that's why Bryce has kind of positioned himself to be the #1 pick.
That's a really good point. I was just thinking back in Panthers history. Really, Jake Delhomme and Cam Newton are the only quarterbacks I can think of as a fan where it didn't feel like you were out of a game because they were there. Especially early Jake, like 03 to like 08, Jake Delhomme, and really 03 to 05, that pocket where, like, it felt like that dude could get you down the field 80 yards. Like, the bigger the stakes, the more he would, like, rise to it. Almost. It was crazy sometimes. Now that ended up backfiring against him towards the end. But and then with Cam just came in with, like, this, like, almost like childlike love of the game. You know what I mean? Like just always smiling.
That's a great way to put it, man, because it's made it fun.
Yeah, yeah. You got the 2015 Carolina Panthers, to me, feel like they had the most fun over the course of a season than any team I can remember, except for maybe the 85 Bears, but they were out there murdering people. So that's a little different vibe.
The turnover celebrations near the sideline, that was...
Yeah, I mean, all posing for pictures, all stuff on the sideline. I mean, like, towards the end of the season, it was like the whole team, like, involved on it, and, like, the whole nation doing the dab and all this. I mean, it was just like a thing, and Cam was like the catalyst to a lot of that stuff. And if I want another guy like that, Sam Darnold's not that. Teddy Bridgewater wasn't that. I mean, they're quarterbacks. They range from decent to average to potentially could be good down the road, but none of them had that asset that, you know, guys are going to run through walls for them. I don't believe none of them. So maybe it's going to be Bryce. Real quick before we get over to the mock draft, Scott Fitter got asked about another question that's been blowing up a lot on social media, especially Panthers social media. Will the Panthers entertain trading the #1 pick? This is what Scott Fitter had to say regarding that idea.
You know, as of right now, I don't see us trading the pick. We'll always pick up the phone. But I think we're in a position where we like where we're at. We're convicted. But just philosophically, we'll always pick up the phone and listen. But it's got to make sense.
I just want to put that in there just so we can stop talking about them trade. I never understood why they would. And it kind of kept blowing up in terms of people saying, well, if Houston did this, if Houston did that. I never thought they moved to play around like that in the first place. I thought they moved up to get a guy, forget everybody else. That's why we moved to one. So Fitter kind of clearing that up, so we don't have to worry about that. Them trading that thing. They're going to be picking number 1, so we don't have to wait till. Usually we got to wait like 9:30 on Thursday to see who we're going to get first round. We going right at what 7, 8,
7 o'clock.
Right at jump. Didn't you say, Stu, you're doing the pick for day 2 for the Panthers?
Yeah, I'm doing they do the legends, some legends from some different teams.
There you go.
So get to go out there and represent the Carolina Panthers.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what we do.
I'm a
third round pick or the third round. Who knows what really will happen?
I was gonna say
second round or third round. Like Scott Fitty might be over there, being a magician.
They're gonna be sitting backstage for hours trying to figure out, well, when am I supposed to go out here and say this pick? I'm gonna tell my kids when I see you come up on stage, like, I know him. I know that guy. I know him.
You gotta have a game plan, right? Because like Pat McAfee, when he did it in Nashville, he came out and just like terrorized all the Titans fans. Right?
Nah, man. I'm actually gonna come out there with a piano, roll out there, and serenade my pick.
John Legend style. Get it all over there.
With the 39th pick, we select.
I love it.
Switch it up, man.
So we said we were gonna do the mock draft. We do it each season because the past 3 years we've been on the air, we've had a top 10 pick. So we decided we were gonna do something to that effect. We weren't gonna do the whole first round. We don't have the time for that, but we do have time to do the first 10. So collectively, we're going to try to figure out where these players probably have the best place to go. We can do trades and stuff in this mock, apparently, but I'll let you two decide if we do any trades or we just keep it the order that it is as it stands as we're live streaming this out. If you guys watching or listening want to participate in this mock and give us some idea of who should go where, you can do so. Just comment in the Facebook watch comment section or on the YouTube video underneath it, like Dallin had been doing throughout earlier in the show. You can do that and we can actually get your comments there. Let me grab the so this is how it's going to work. I went and found a mock simulator. This is from NFL mock draft database.com. And what it's going to allow us to do is basically go in and do this as if it's a draft. So it's got like a clock and everything else on it. I'll try to a little bit bigger. All right, cool. So without further ado, matter of fact, I think I still got my my little NFL. Yeah, I do.
There we go.
Yeah, now it's draft time. It's draft time. So the Carolina Panthers, I'm gonna go ahead and start. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock. So
might as well just go ahead and put it in.
I would say you gentlemen.
Man.
That's weird. Just so we're gonna go with Bryce.
Bryce.
All right, so Bryce Young goes number 1 to the Carolina Panthers.
Woo!
The Houston Texans are on the clock. The Texans have the 12th pick in this draft too. Needs quarterback, well, pretty much the whole team. Position, they need everything. Who?
This is not going to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
This is going to be Will Anderson.
Ooh.
I think they're going to shock everybody and actually, I don't know who said it. It may have been Todd McShay or somebody. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? This starts to make a lot of sense. That quarterback class next year is really good. This team's going to be still very far away from competing. So they're going to have another top pick next year. And they're sitting there at 12. Anthony Richardson could be there at 12.
One of these quarterbacks is going to drop. They always do. One out of the 4 is going to drop and is going to be sitting there at 12. Like what it was Mac Jones.
You can't tell me that D'Amico Ryans is not looking at Will Anderson and just jaw on the ground. Like,
you might have just convinced me. That
I think it's Will Anderson.
Stu, what do you think?
I'm with my man.
I think so too. Yeah,
he's making a statement as a defensive head coach anyway. So go ahead.
Yep, that makes sense. Will Anderson goes number 2 to Houston, edge from Alabama. The Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. They have the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. They just signed Kyler Murray to an extension. They need everything too. Edge, cornerback, receiver, safety.
If this happens where Anderson goes to, Arizona, the trade value for this pick is going to go like through the roof.
Oh, did it say make trades? I thought it said I could trade on here. We won't do trades. Oh yeah, I guess you can do a trade. Nah, we won't do that. That'd be kind of complicated, but I don't know how to do it.
I would say Vegas move up to get Stroud, but that's
But at,
I don't know. What are y'all thinking?
I think if if Will Anderson's off the table, I definitely think
Jalen Carter's still sitting there.
I think Vegas has to move up.
Let me see what happens with this trade button,
because that means that a quarterback's going to be taken by someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you got to get it. And like, you don't want the Colts to. You want to beat the Colts to the punch, right?
Yeah.
So,
and if you're Houston, you don't want CJ Stroud going to Indy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this.
That's a good point.
How to do the trade.
Just click the 7. So Houston would get number 7, and let's throw in their second round pick, I guess, and maybe
that's not enough.
Future first. You think that's too much?
Still says no. Oh, it says too much.
Too much. Okay.
Yeah. Or there's more red in the too much than I don't know how to read this. It's not letting me. It's saying that we can't do it.
Take away the second. Take away the second.
Get off. It won't let me. I don't know. It's just I'm sitting there clicking it. It won't let me do anything. No. This. Okay.
We could theoretically just take Stroud and just say that it's Vegas.
He's going to Vegas. Yeah, we'll do it like NBA style, where the trade happens after the after the whatever. So Arizona, we said where? Stroud.
Yeah,
but
so
he'll be going to Vegas.
Yeah, that's what I say.
That sounds about right. Well, yeah, that sounds right. It's going to look weird because it's going to say CJ Stroud, Arizona, and we already know they got Kyler Murray, but he's going to Vegas. So when we get to Vegas, we're actually picking for Arizona.
Yeah. And then it's got to be Levis, right?
I don't know. I kind of think Richardson could end up there. Either the next 2 spots are going to be one of the 2 places I think Richardson's going to be, either Indy or Seattle. I think Levis is going to be the one that falls, to be honest. They wouldn't. I mean, they need everything. Everybody up here needs everything. The Colts actually need a quarterback and a wide receiver. O-line, D-line, cornerback, edge, linebacker, long snapper.
Like a quarterback here.
Yeah. I think
Levis.
It's hard, man. I think that it depends on what this cognitive test comes down to. I feel like there's a lot of value in that these days right now.
I thought I saw that Richardson scored very high. Test.
And so I think that's the reason why he goes to the Colts. When you put him back there with Jonathan Taylor, it's a problem.
I think if the Colts had to choose between him and Levis, they're going to pick Richardson. If I'm Colts, I think that's what I would do.
Let's go AR.
All right.
Yeah, and at the end of the day too, we talking about that it factor. Like, what is a guy like in the locker room? What is a guy like in the huddle? Like, that's a guy I can get behind.
So that makes it interesting for Seattle. Coming in with the 5th pick here, Jalen Carter is still on the board. Who many people consider was the best player in the draft.
Yeah, I think you would go right here. Or I mean, they could maybe take Levis, but then again, they could take a guy like Hendon Hooker in the 2nd round or something to sit behind Geno.
They've got pick 20. Seattle got pick 20.
Oh yeah, that's right. So they could take Hooker at 20.
Yeah,
I think they would go Carter or some defensive pick here, maybe even Tyree Wilson. I think it'd be Carter.
What do you think, Stu? Carter's the best player left on the board.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you're at that position, you got to take the best available.
Yeah. We're thinking too hard about it. Just go ahead.
Really a Seattle too, because it's not their pick. Their actual pick is 20. So they could just look at this and say, hey, let's just take the best player available since it's not our pick.
Yep. Detroit at pick number 6. Detroit has the 18th pick in this draft also. Are they good with Jared Goff, or do they go hunting as well? Or actually, do they try to protect Jared Goff? There's a couple of
I think they go get my Ducky over there in University of Oregon.
Christian
Gonzalez.
You saying?
I was going to say either Gonzalez or Wilson, but I'm leaning more towards Gonzalez too. So, yeah.
So Gonzalez to Detroit. 7th. It's the Las Vegas pick, but we made a trade earlier. It's actually Arizona. So it's the Arizona pick here.
Tyree Wilson probably. Get you an edge rusher. They need an edge rusher bad. J.J. Watt tired.
Either that or Paris Johnson, the tackle from Ohio State. If you want to, I look at if you're going to give Kyler Murray $200+ million, you probably should try to protect him. You probably should at least make some sort of concerted effort to say, hey, we understand you're coming off of a knee injury. Let's fix this offensive line.
I like the offensive line move.
So either Johnson or Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, or you can go get a target for Goff. Jackson Smith, Njigba. I can't pronounce it. Njigba. He's still on here. I think that's who Fitterer was talking about in that press conference. He said a wide receiver came in that really impressed them. He didn't say who it was, but there was only 2 that came in there that interviewed. I would think it was probably him. There's a couple names on here. Miles Murphy, Clemson, the edge rusher. But Tyree Wilson's still on here. It's the car. I keep looking at it thinking it's the Raiders. It's the Cards. The Cards need
The Cards need.
Oh, it won't show me. They needed everything. Yeah, they need. You got to protect Kyler at this point. You've kind of invested. Is it? Where'd he go?
I think you.
Paris Johnson.
Me personally, I would go Tyree Wilson because he's the best pure edge rusher left. And there's a few other offensive tackles that you can take maybe later on, but I don't know. I think that's just me. I don't know. I like
one vote for Wilson. Stu, you said the offensive line, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning offensive line too.
I'll go Paris Johnson.
I'm going with Paris Johnson. We'll go Paris Johnson for Arizona. Atlanta, pick number 8. I believe they were picking around this spot last year.
Yeah.
They need everything too.
Hey, listen, y'all gonna hate me, but I'm gonna say they gotta go Bijan. You gotta go get that running back.
Wow, running back.
You gotta go running back.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Because at the end of the day, you get a guy like that, he's a playmaker, and you just get the playmaker. Because
it's so crazy nowadays too, where people make us question running backs getting drafted.
Because when they were successful as a unit, Patterson, Cordell was going off, right?
Yeah.
When he was hurt, they had to figure it out. They had the backup last year. I can't think of his name right now, but he played well.
Algier.
He played well. But I mean, you get a guy like this, he could be a generational talent. So
I agree.
I'm going to go in a different direction to make Dez be the deciding factor here. And it's still another weapon. I'm going Smith and Jigba here.
Ooh. I wouldn't even.
Jackson Smith and Jigba with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. You're giving Desmond Ridder a very good chance to succeed.
Didn't they sign somebody? Did they sign somebody else too at quarterback? Or am I thinking?
They signed Heineke.
Heineke. That's right.
But this is the reason why you need a running back, because you already got guys, right? You control the middle. You can control the middle of the field because you got a running back now that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Wherever you need him to be, he can be there, right? You got Kyle Pitts over the middle when they utilize him the right way, like they utilized him against us last year and ripped us apart. But I'm just like, I know guys don't like to take running backs and give them all that money and invest, in these early rounds like they used to. But Man, look.
I mean, if he pans out, he pans out. Like,
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. They do. I feel like they don't have the quarterback situated. Like, is this one of those things like one of those teams from earlier where the next year is going to be so loaded at quarterback that they just try to start putting some pieces in there first?
Yeah.
So what is either Robinson or the kid from Ohio State? So either wide receiver or running back we're looking at here. I think I might have to go with Stu and Robinson because I've been hearing a lot about him lately, like more so, like it's starting to build a little bit. And if you've got a guy back there that you can lean on, 20, 25 carries, a 3-down back, which it sounds like he could be, that could go a long way towards helping a young quarterback. I'm going to go with Robinson. So Robinson goes to Atlanta. They picked 2 skill position players in the first round 2 years in a row. Chicago is at number 9. This is the pick that we had, that we traded them to move up to number 1. Chicago needs everything. They actually got quarterback on here as a need for Chicago. Quarterback, running back. Like, wow. Okay. What does Chicago do here at 9? Tyree Wilson.
I'm going Skoronski. They need to get Justin Fields protection. That offensive line was awful last year. They traded for DJ Moore. They got Deontay Foreman, so they've got some pieces around them. They just need to protect them. Skoronski, local kid, played at Northwestern. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I forgot that Foreman's son with Chicago too. Wow. Okay.
PJ's there too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah.
Chicago Panthers, baby.
Chicago Panthers, Buffalo Panthers, San Francisco Panthers.
I wish they'd share some of this good fortune with us. That would be nice. So I'm gonna pick Skoronski for Chicago. That gets us to 10. I don't know how Philly made it to the Super Bowl, and they've got 2 first-round picks in this draft. They got 10 and 30.
They got where did that pick come from? Detroit, maybe? No. New Orleans.
They've had a bunch for a while. New Orleans.
I think they got Tyree Wilson.
I was going to say Wilson's still on the board. Think he goes to Philly? They've lost some free agents in this offseason too, haven't they? I think that no one's really talked about that a whole lot.
They lost some D-line. They lost who was that at D-line?
Hargrave.
Yeah.
So you could get this guy to put him beside or opposite Hassan Reddick.
At least you got some dogs that's gonna bite.
Yeah, I think Wilson goes right here.
That was part of their success last year, is because they was getting after that quarterback.
Yeah,
I like Wilson there too. I would probably also make an argument for Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Dude's super talented, linebacker / edge. Just plays all over the field. Like,
he might be the best. He might be the only linebacker worth grabbing.
Yeah,
early
on. He's
that was the top 10. If you guys want to keep going a little bit, we can. We're at 11. Tennessee, who I just saw today, have made an offer to trade for Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with all that. I also saw Tennessee might be trying to trade Derrick Henry. So I think Dallas was inquiring about him. I don't know what Tennessee's doing. AFC South is kind of wide open, although Jacksonville seems like the team that's on the come up in the AFC South. Would they take a chance on Will Levis?
I think they look like a Will Levis type team.
They do. They do look like a Will Levis type team. You're in Tennessee, Kentucky guy.
To me, you've got Malik Willis, and I don't know that there's going to be much separation between them. And I'm not saying Malik's going to be their answer, but I'm saying, I think you're at this point, you're not getting one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. So I would take one of the better players available. I don't know.
Maybe a receiver.
Maybe. I mean, they don't have any receivers outside of Traylon Burks, but
there you go.
Scroll down a little bit. Let's see who else they got here.
Quentin Johnson, TCU. Jordan Addison, USC.
Darnell Wright.
Zay Flowers, who Steve Smith was very high on. I saw that. Darnell Washington, the Georgia tight end.
I'm going out of the box here, and I'm going Darnell Wright, Tennessee kid, They need some offensive line help. They don't have Taylor Lewan anymore. That's way out of the box.
That's actually a good look right there.
Yeah, actually,
and
teams typically do a lot of that because it's right in their backyard, so they've got more chance to see that guy. I'm gonna go that way too. So that's Darnell White, right, going to Tennessee from Tennessee. Houston back on the clock at pick 12. They picked Jr. Who?
Quentin Johnston.
Oh, Quentin Johnson, TCU, wide receiver.
That's my pick.
That sounds same kind of situation in their backyard. Played at Texas Christian. I'm surprised. How do you pronounce this dude's name again?
Smith Njiba.
Njiba.
I got a thought going back to Tennessee right quick. My man from the quarterback from Tennessee.
Oh yeah, Hendon Hooker. That is
at 10.
I'm convinced that when he's healthy, he can actually be dangerous. And probably a good fit for the Titans.
Yeah,
especially being in the backyard. They probably know everything about him. Probably know everything about his rehab. They probably know everything about him. Like,
actually, would Houston be in play for Hooker at 12?
Probably not. Because they need to get as much talent as they can. You have 2 top 12 picks. They can get a quarterback next year, or maybe the first quarterback.
Yeah.
Devin Witherspoon's still on here.
The good thing for Tennessee is if they own their second round pick, which I'm not sure if they do, it'll be in the first, obviously 10 or 12 picks. So Hooker could still, in theory, be there.
With Houston, did they take Witherspoon from Illinois? He's the highest rated one left on here at 8.
They took Stingley last year. So
they did. Levis is still here. Van Ness from Iowa, Porter Jr. from Penn State, Miles Murphy I've seen a lot of from Clemson, the edge rusher. That might be kind of high to get Miles Murphy. I wouldn't be surprised if D'Amico goes defense again, though, try to build that defense up. So maybe he goes after a cornerback and try to build it that way. So you've got 2 guys back there that are young that can grow together.
Maybe Nolan Smith goes here. And then you got the 2 best defensive players in the draft, arguably.
Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia. I could see that too. That wouldn't be a bad haul. You get Will Anderson Jr. and Nolan Smith. I'm going to go with that. The Jets. Now, this is tricky because we don't know if the Jets are going to have this pick. We don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. We don't know where this pick is going to go. They're in the same kind of situation, too. They need everything.
They need some milk.
It's almost like best player on the board for them. Would they draft Will Levis? Say the Aaron Rodgers stuff is still not resolved by opening night. Would they take a chance on Levis still sitting there?
Will Levis, I can't. Listen, you gotta think to yourself. How can you see this guy in the huddle at a home game?
They just went through Zach Wilson too.
Like the Jets fans gonna be like, boo. And then he gonna hear this, and I don't know if he had. I don't really know his mental landscape.
Yeah,
that well, but
plus he's got to play with the idea that he's supposed to be Aaron Rodgers. Like the Jets fans have been told they're getting Aaron Rodgers for 2 months, and then say they don't, and Will Levis ends up being the starting quarterback week 1. No, I don't see that.
I'll throw my 2 cents in real quick before I head out.
Yeah, we're gonna just stop. Actually, we'll stop it on this last one here.
I'll go Miles Murphy, just edge rusher. They could use some more guys there. I mean, their defense is pretty good, but Robert Saleh wants to build that thing through the trenches.
That's a good point. I'll go Murphy too. So to recap, we got through the first 13 picks. Carolina with Bryce Young, pick number 1. Will Anderson Jr. goes to Houston with pick number 2. Arizona trades with Las Vegas. Vegas moves up to 3, selects C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. The Indianapolis Colts gets Anthony Richardson at pick 4. Jalen Carter goes to Seattle at pick 5. The cornerback from Oregon, Christian Gonzalez goes to Detroit at pick 6. The Las Vegas trade, that's Arizona. They get Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle from Ohio State. Robinson, the running back from Texas, goes to Atlanta. Skoronski, the offensive tackle from Northwestern, lands in Chicago. Tyree Wilson, probably the best edge rusher in this draft at Texas Tech, going to Philly. That sounds great. Then Wright going to Tennessee. The offensive tackle, Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia, going to Houston, and the Miles Murphy going to the New York Jets. So we got through about 14 picks or so. Schuyler's got to get out of here. He's got a press conference about to start here in 2 minutes over at the stadium. We'll be back. I don't know if we'll be back before the draft or not, actually, because it starts Thursday. So if we can get one in next Wednesday, we might. I think Steve's traveling, so I don't know if we can do that or not. We'll figure it out, but we'll keep you guys posted. We will have a post-draft show for sure after everything is settled. We look at what they got. We can analyze all that. So we got to get out of here. Make sure you follow Bleav on Twitter at Bleav. You can follow us on our Twitter handles. You can see right there. For Jonathan Stewart and Schuyler Callihan, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. Keep pounding.